Okay. Well, good morning, everybody. Thank you again so much for spending some time with us this morning. Just to introduce myself, I am Jessica Berg. I'm the director of the Minnesota Cup. For those of you who are learning about us for the first time or just getting introduced to our competition, we are a new venture competition that is based at the Carlson School of Management at the University of Minnesota. So we, despite the fact that we're based at the U or that we are a University of Minnesota program, we are open for anyone in the entire state of Minnesota to apply. So we are focused on an early stage entrepreneur, and we're unique in that we're open to anyone in the state. We have opportunities and sort of capacity to serve people from any industry or any sector. The only thing that we look for, again, is that you're Minnesota based and that your company or your new venture is earning less than $1 million a year in revenue. We are really specifically focused on supporting a very early stage entrepreneur, people who have early ideas, who maybe have a really big opportunity or they're doing something innovative or breakthrough within their space, but that just need help getting started or would benefit from mentorship or seed capital or additional education and connectivity to a network of entrepreneurs and resources in the state. That's sort of what we're here to do. So you are here in the info session for our energy, clean tech, and water division, which is absolutely fantastic. We've had some really wonderful companies go through this process and participate in this division. And we're really lucky to have the division sponsored by Xcel Energy. They are the principal way that we can fund our division winning prize money of $25,000. So big thank you to them. And we will be hearing from one of our division judges from Xcel Energy a little bit later, just with her experience as a judge, what judges really look for. So excited to have her join and share that with us. But a few things to know about our energy, clean tech, and water division specifically is that it is geared around, just how it sounds, concepts that are innovating in energy creation or even energy storage. Sometimes as things get green and sort of as the grid gets more sophisticated, sometimes just energy storage can be really meaningful and really help drive clean energy and renewable energy sources. We also have other types of clean technologies or clean chemistry products that apply every season and are often really competitive. And then other types of concepts that are focused on water. So whether that be sort of in like the natural environment or water processing, all of those areas are really good fits for this division. And so if any of you on the in the Zoom meeting have questions or have a specific concept and you're curious, like, is this the right division for me? Please feel free to throw any questions you have in the chat and we'll be taking a look and trying to answer them as best we can. But it is really a division that is focused on driving sustainability and sort of increasing opportunities to have a healthy environment and reduce our carbon footprint and all of those things. So we are excited that you're all interested in potentially innovating in this space because it's definitely something that we need. We need innovation and progress in this space for sure. So I am going to just share a few other sort of announcements or pieces of information. I know a couple of you in the survey mentioned that you're familiar with this division and you've participated in the past, but you're just curious if anything's new this year. And we do actually have something really exciting that is new to share with you. We have a new prize that is funded by the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency called the Green Chemistry Prize for $10,000. So we definitely offer prize money and we offer a lot of other opportunities for people who compete in any of our divisions. So I believe that Emily Ahachich from Xcel Energy is here and would love to have Emily say a quick welcome from Xcel and just share what her experience is like as a judge in the division. So I'm gonna turn it over to you, Emily.
Hi, good morning, everybody. And thank you very much, Jessica, for both the opportunity to participate as a gold sponsor last year and certainly for the University of Minnesota's sponsorship of this really important event. I am the Director of IR, Investor Relations at Xcel, and we are a combined natural gas and electric utility serving customers across 8 states, including the state of Minnesota, where we're headquartered. And last year was our first sponsorship of the Energy, Cleantech, and Water Division. And it was first and foremost a really fun opportunity to learn about the companies, hear the concepts, meet the entrepreneurs in each of those organizations, and certainly to partner and learn from other thought leaders in this space. We sponsored for 2 reasons. First and foremost, we think it's very important to support entrepreneurial development in the state of Minnesota. And second, it's really an important part of our long-term strategy from a clean tech standpoint. So we at Xcel Energy are focused on 3 things: leading the clean energy transition, enhancing our customers' experience, and keeping our customer bills low. And we've got a goal, an ambitious goal, to reduce carbon emissions by 80% by 2030, and to be able to provide carbon-free electricity to our customers 100% carbon-free by 2050. And we think to get to that 80% number, we can do it with current technology. It won't be easy, but we believe we can achieve that. To get that last 10-20%, we know that we need new technology, clean, dispatchable, carbon-free technology that's scalable and economic. And so that is a very big interest for us in terms of events like this and other research and innovation. So again, very much thank the university for sponsoring this really special event, and to all the companies who are going for it this year. Good luck to you. It's a really fun event. It's a really interesting event, and I think it's a great opportunity from a number of standpoints, and something that you'll really enjoy.
Thank you so much, Emily. That was awesome. I am going to, if you don't mind being put on the spot a little bit, I'm going to ask you a couple questions about your judging experience. I know you were a new judge last year, but it was fun to have you. So one question, when it comes to actually evaluating or sort of seeing across all of the different competitors and trying to make a decision about who moves forward, what was something that you noticed, or something that the companies that continued to advance really had in common or did a good job of emphasizing, whether it was in application or in their business plan?
Great question. I think one important piece of advice for the companies is you have to remember that the judging group, while there is a lot of experience and depth, has experience in different things. And when we say clean tech, it's a pretty broad landscape. And so really framing in simple terms some of the products and the offerings, especially those that have a lot of complexity to them, it is really important. So the concept is clear. And then I think, while it sounds basic, making sure that the framing of the market opportunity and the assumptions behind what you believe you can go after in that market and why you have a competitive advantage, being really clear about that up front, especially in that first round. We had a lot of dialogue about that across some of the companies, and particularly the ones that weren't as clear. And so I would offer that. And then I think also demonstrating progress. The companies aren't all at the same place, and showing the progress that you have made in a tangible way across the various categories that are asked for in the application and the support papers is really important as well, for all applicants, but especially those who have participated in a prior year. I think really showing what has changed since the last round is going to be very important as well.
Thank you. That's super helpful. And it tees up a couple things for me to share, because we do have a number of folks on the webinar who have never competed in Minnesota Cup before or new to our process, which is super exciting. And we're very happy to have you. Because Minnesota Cup is serving an early stage entrepreneur, or people who do have maybe just an idea and not a ton of progress and they're working on developing it into a company, we definitely are receptive to those ideas and those founders. But to Emily's point, you still have to share, even if you don't have like meaningful progress or you don't have revenue yet, that's totally okay. But tell us a little bit more about what you've done to validate your idea or determine that there are actually people who want this and need this and are willing to pay you money for it. Because we do, especially in this division, have a lot of really technical solutions. We have a lot of inventions. We have a ton of like really detailed research and a lot of really cool, like cutting edge stuff in this space. But sometimes that means that it can be difficult to like succinctly and really clearly get across not just every nuance of your technology and why it's the coolest thing ever, but how is it really going to get into the market and why do people want it and need it, and are they going to pay you for it? So those, even if you aren't very far along or you don't have progress like in the marketplace or you're not selling something yet, that's totally okay. But still walk us through any of that. Have you interacted with customers? Have you had any conversations or done research into your market that you can demonstrate that this is really a needed product and that you're really ready to bring it to customers? So that was great, Emily. Thank you for raising that. I would say another thing when you're thinking about the companies, like if you look ahead or sort of jump ahead to what the end of the competition process is like and narrowing it down from the top 3 finalists who then sort of pitch and are going for the $25,000 prize money. What do you feel like the company that won or took it home was able to demonstrate, or sort of what helped them stand out among the rest of the companies?
That's to me, Jessica.
Yes.
I think, again, it goes back to really the clarity of the value proposition. What problem are you solving? And regardless of where you are in your journey, if it's still conceptual and your financials are really loose, or if you're farther along, you kind of have a sense for here's the size of the pie based on the problem I believe this can solve. And here's what I think we can go after and why. And I think that qualitative numbers need to be there in some form of estimate, but it is harder when you're earlier in the journey. But that narrative, the story that goes around the substance needs to be really clear, and whatever financials are put forth need to be buttoned and tie out. And so proofing is also a really good thing, because I know sometimes when we're rushing, we have a lot of deliverables, things can happen. So just some of those basics, I think, being done really well, and besides the passion, being able to be really articulate about the value creation for the product or the products.
Thank you. That's super helpful. So I am going to shift over to asking a few questions to Doug Parker, who was on the team that won our Energy, Cleantech, and Water division last season. So super grateful that you're here, Doug, and able to give us some of your time and share some of your experiences. So I'm going to get you spotlighted so folks can see you. But how are you?
Fine, and thank you very much for the opportunity. We certainly were very happy with the Minnesota Cup and everything we learned through that process as well. So I'm very happy to share what we've learned or help the others in any way that I can.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Doug. So when you all were competing last year, it was your first year in Minnesota Cup. So for many folks to know, more often than not, people apply to Minnesota Cup and maybe don't even get in the first year, and they come back and apply again. We also have a lot of competitors compete multiple years in a row before they get to the point where they actually take home prize money. And we really welcome that, and we want people to participate and sort of take any benefit they can from our process year over year up until that point that they win something. So Doug, you all were in a unique situation where you were just able to really progress and hone your message during the season to get to the point to win. So that was super impressive. But what was that like for you all to be kind of getting in alignment or sort of working on your technology together and being a relatively new team?
Yeah, I'd say that a couple of things. One is, although this was the first time we applied, I had been a mentor for other teams in the past couple of years, and I was fortunate enough that my teams had won their division. None of them had won the entire thing, but they had won their division. So that was actually a good experience for me to be somewhat prepared. But the other thing I think is that we had done, just prior to that, we had done quite a bit of customer interactions where we've actually talked to either potential customers or people that were in that field. And that really helped us to gain the insight. And I think at least have a strong foundation to our value proposition throughout this process, working with you and the others. We certainly did strengthen that. And we also went through MinCore, which I would recommend that to others as well, if you get a chance to participate in that. That really helped us a lot. And then I think your guidance throughout that and giving us confidence as well as we went forward was very, very helpful. So I would say, try to build as strong of an insight on your market and your customers as best as you can, and build as good of a value proposition as you possibly can, so you don't leave any money on the table if you actually get to an opportunity to sell something, and then build your story around that. So I think our team was strong, but actually I think our market focus and our value proposition was very, very strong.
Sure. Yeah. When it came to actually being in the participant side versus in the helper mentor side, which is a cool flip that doesn't happen all the time, but it's super wonderful that you do continue to volunteer. You've been part of our experience for a long time. What, as a participant, did you notice, or what did you feel for your company and your technology was the most helpful part of the Minnesota Cup process? What do you think that what about what we offered was sort of helped you grow the most?
I think as you go through the stages, everything kind of gets ratcheted up, which I think was useful because it kind of helps you step through the process as opposed to try to do everything all at once. And then we certainly, and this for certain, we certainly took advantage of consulting with you guys, because you had like office hours and we talked to you guys and we pretty much followed all of your advice. And the other thing is that we actually got feedback too from the people who were reviewing us. And I'd say this is one thing everyone should be open to, is just listen to that feedback that as you stage through each one, that people give you, don't have a big ego. Like the first presentation I made afterwards, the people thought that, maybe I talked too much and I should let someone else from our team talk. And I could have been like, oh my God, but I said, oh geez, if that's going to help, for sure. And then we had Allison take the lead on the next presentation and things went really well. So I'd say, really listen to that feedback and, take it not as they're picking on you, but take it as they're really trying to give you some good advice as to how to be more successful.
That's awesome. Well, yeah, we had a blast working with you all too. So it is really, I think, the case for our competition experience in a way that's different from other accelerator or incubator programs, that it is a longer process. So you apply in the spring, so applications are open now. You don't find out if you'll move forward or not until May. And then the process really takes place over the summer, and it's long. And that's in large part because people who are at an early stage, they're not necessarily working on this full time, or you have other commitments, you have other things going on in your life. And you may be doing this, creating a business plan, working on a pitch deck, thinking about actually presenting your idea to an audience for the very first time. So we don't expect you to do this full time, but you really will get, the more you put into it and the more you participate and take advantage of the opportunities and the education we offer, the more you'll get out of it. And that was totally true for your team, Doug, that you showed up for every single thing and you really committed. And I know that it is busy and challenging to both be trying to run a company and work on the company at the same time, but you really exemplified taking advantage of every aspect. So, well,
that was a real team effort. It wasn't me, just myself. It was the whole team that was participating.
Yep.
So you need everyone to contribute. That's for sure.
For sure. Awesome. Well, I want to make sure that we leave space and time for questions. So whether they're, I know we have a mixture of of people on this webinar, so you may have different types of questions, whether it's something you want to direct to Doug as an alumni, or Emily as a judge, or me just tactically. Like, please ask any questions you have. That's why we're here together, is to help you kind of know what to do next and what to expect. So you can add those into the chat or just be thinking about them. And then when we wrap up the conversation with Doug, I'll just put us back in a grid format so you can even just ask your question verbally and we'll answer it live. But one other question for you, Doug, thinking back to the very beginning of the process, like during that application phase where these folks potentially are now, what advice would you give? Or when you were thinking about, as a team, working on your application, anything that, being able to see, everything in hindsight, any advice you'd give to people who are either considering applying or who are actively working on an application that they might be able to glean from you?
I guess one thing is that we actually could have fit our technology into two different categories. There was like the food thing as well as energy. And we certainly had to play in both. So we had to kind of decide which one we thought we had the strongest story in. And so I would recommend that if there's people out there that have more than one category that they could fit into, really think seriously about, all right, where do you think your strongest value proposition is, and which one you can build around that the best. So again, for us, although we had a lot of customer insight, we still gave a lot of thought. Should we apply to the food category, or should we apply to the clean energy and water category? And in the end, I think we made a good choice because we did have a pretty good energy play, but it is something that I think you really need to think about, and then really prepare your plan as best you can as you start this process. And then I would also, keep an eye on the other people that are in your categories. You get to see what their story is, and you can start to think, what are they doing? How are they positioning it to kind of bring forward the attributes that are important for that category? And so that's what we did throughout the process.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Doug.
Well, then the last thing I would say is that you did, I think, along the way, give some examples of past presentations and things. And that's very, very helpful as well. So I would pay, again, all of the resources and all of the time that, that the Minnesota Cup staff will give you, take advantage of, because they really are there to really help you. And without them, we wouldn't have won, that's for sure.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to move this into a grid format so that we can see all of your faces. Obviously, there's no pressure if you don't want to turn your camera on and or speak live. That is 100% okay. But I just want to make sure for folks who have questions that you have a chance to ask them. And yeah, so if you want to use that hand raise function, I can call on you, or feel free to just type something into the chat.
I can start with a
Awesome.
question.
Great.
So it's regarding the division. There's a few that we could fit in, and foreverware.org, we're building a reuse system for takeout containers, essentially. So we're replacing disposable takeout packaging with reusable steel containers. And we also have a tech component. So we could fit into Impact Ventures, Cleantech, High Tech, or potentially the food division. So just wondering how did you determine which story would be the strongest in which division?
Yeah. Doug, do you want to take that first, or sort of share how you thought about it, and then I can fill in?
Yeah, I guess, and I don't know your area that well, but for ours, on the food play, our product is a nozzle that is very energy efficient, so we can spray dry materials, which spray drying food is a big process. So we thought, okay, we fit into the food category and we can produce food. But when I've looked at the past people that were in the food category, this wasn't sort of the play that was in that category in my mind. And so although I think we would have a big impact on being able to produce this at a reasonably and reduce costs and make it more sustainable, we really thought, all right, I think the energy play builds a much stronger, engaging story for us. And so in the end, it really just came back down to where we thought our story would bring the strongest story for the attributes that were important for that category. So I would recommend you try to really pick that apart and then figure out where the best play is.
Okay, that makes sense. So basically go through the past um, groups that have competed and see how we compare to them.
And I
And that-
guarantee you, if you talk to Jamie and the others, they will, if you say, hey, we're thinking about these different categories, they will also help you work through that process of trying to make a good decision for you.
Okay,
For
thank
sure.
you.
Yeah. Another thing I would add, totally agree with Doug that we list on our website all of the past semifinalists in every division, going back as far as we have that data. So you can look that up on our website. And another thing that we list on our website is all of the division judges. So Minnesota Cup is kind of unique in that because we're industry agnostic, those categories are really broad. So it is super common that people could see themselves or there's gray area between them. And that's really just because we're doing our best to funnel people who could potentially be doing literally anything into one of them so that we can align judges who have the functional and industry expertise to really have a point of view on whether that opportunity is significant or not. So it is kind of an odd an odd exercise to choose one when there's so many even different niches that fit into all of them. But looking at who those judges are for each division can also be a really helpful exercise because to what Doug shared, their product had a really big market within food producers. So their customer was in the food space, or one of their potential, big customers was in the food space, but their value proposition or sort of secret sauce is that they were taking a really high energy process and making it dramatically more energy efficient. And that's what made them unique or doing something that was really innovative. And so if you think about for what you're working on, what is the thing that is the most sort of unique or what is the most kind of important for a judge to know already or to be familiar with to really understand your value proposition, that's another good way to narrow it down or think about it. And that's, it's still not to a certain extent, there's no absolutely wrong answer, but you know your company best and you sort of know what differentiates you from what's out there now and what your competition is doing. So think about those things. And then again, like Doug mentioned, if you're still stuck, you can always chat with us about it and we'll try to give you the best advice we can. We also have a lot of actually application tours where we live on Zoom. Jamie and I walk through the whole application, answer any questions you might have, and that's usually a pretty small group. So we sometimes can go into those things or give some off the cuff advice in those calls too.
Okay,
Jessica,
great.
if I could
Oh,
just
go ahead.
jump
Emily,
in,
yeah, please.
to build on this a little bit. So I'm thinking back to the rounds of judging the products that Doug's team brought forward, and I think, and when I made the comment about target what your market is and framing that, it can be really broad depending on what your technology is, right? And yet as you're getting started, you want to put some focus to it. Here's what I think I can do to gain traction to start growing this business, get customers and grow this business. But when I look at that technology, while there certainly is the food application, I was thinking, wow, this could really be applied to a lot of different things, and not all those things should be tackled right away. But there really is a huge gamut, really wide gamut of how that could be applied. And so from a judging standpoint, and probably depends on the background of each judge, but that might also be something to consider as you're trying to slot yourself in.
The Minnesota Cup process is really designed for people who likely have a day job or have a lot of other commitments, because we expect or assume that you may have a really, really good idea that maybe it's a side hustle, maybe it's still just sitting in your brain, and you just haven't had the time or the resources or the support to focus on that idea when you're doing a bunch of other things. You're earning money for your family with a day, or you have other responsibilities. And so our process is part-time for people who have those ideas that they haven't been able to focus on, to go through and get that support. So we definitely want and hope that our process is more accessible than other incubators or accelerator programs so that we can have people with a lot of different types of lived experiences go through and benefit. So we definitely want people who aren't spending their full time on this concept to apply. To the point about financial resources, both for minority founders and just for anyone, Minnesota Cup gives away, this year we'll be giving away over $400,000 in seed capital to people who move through the competition. And we give away that money with taking no equity in exchange. So it's truly free and clear. It's cash you can spend on your business right away. We've heard, Doug, you could share sort of how you used your prize money, but we've heard from some of our founders that they're like, man, I was building a physical product and I didn't have the funds to do a run or like manufacture it so that I could sell it. So I used the cash and invested in the inventory that I needed to actually be able to sell my product online. Or sometimes people use the cash they receive to hire other people or build up their team, or like hire a contractor or technologist to code their app or whatever. You know, everybody, we definitely understand and look for founders who understand, like, I'm good at this, but I'm not good at all of this. So how can I best bring other people on board, or recognize my own strengths and then delegate the stuff, or hire someone to do the things that are not my strength. So the prize money that we give away is really with an eye toward allowing people who don't have access to venture capital or investors or are too early for like a loan to like use the seed capital for Minnesota Cup to make those investments and like take their idea forward. We also are really lucky to partner with a bunch of other sponsors and community organizations who fund specifically businesses owned by people of color. We have a prize that's sponsored by Meta and JP Morgan Chase that's just for an entrepreneur of color that you know, is really performing well or had a great idea in our process. Carlson Family Foundation funds a top veteran-led prize and a top women-led company prize. And we have a ton of other niche prizes that there's different members of the community and the state step forward to fund. So I shared at the very beginning that we actually have a brand new prize this year funded by the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency around supporting green or sustainable chemistry-based products. So that's a new one that's really exciting. We have a lot of other support from the Minnesota Department of Employment and Economic Development. So actually receive the funds. Yeah, we, that's a really good question. In the Minnesota Cup process, we have however many hundreds of companies apply, then the top 10 in each division move on to that semifinalist round and they get to access that mentorship and education and support that Doug talked about. We always are like, it's really hard. I think Emily can speak to this, but there are always way more good ideas that we receive than we actually have space in the competition to, you know, to support or to sort of allow to go through our process. We are also really lucky that all of the judges, so folks like Emily who are making those decisions, so it's not Minnesota Cup or me or my team that actually select who moves forward. It's these individual groups of volunteer division judges who know those industries and know the space better than I do, who evaluate and score applications and make those hard decisions. But so 90 companies get into that semifinalist round and access all of the mentorship and education and coaching. And then it's in that final round, or sort of the top 3 from each division. So it goes from 90 to 27 companies across divisions that typically are ones that take home prize money. There are a couple exceptions to that. Sometimes people who have special prizes, they look at the whole semifinalist pool in choosing someone. So, but from one season to the next, usually between 15 and 20 companies take home a share of that $400,000 plus prize money. And the prize amounts usually are an average of like between $10,000 and $20,000, depending on what prize you win or how far you get. That said, people who go on to win the grand prize sometimes take home in excess of $100,000 because they won their division, they won the grand prize, and maybe they're taking home another niche prize or opportunity. So we try to support the most companies that we can, but not every single company takes home a cash prize.
While we're waiting, I guess I just add that I think we're all want to win, but really, I think everyone should just go in and say, I just want to learn. And I guarantee you, whether you move on to the other advances or not, everyone's going to learn. And there are other benefits, like they were mentioning earlier, is this, for example, when you get to have a mentor assigned to you. It was very fortunate. We had a person from Cargill who has remained to be very important to us and has made several good connections to us. So even if you don't make it all the way to the end, you get to a mentor, and then this person or persons can be very valuable to helping you kind of review what you've been doing and framing things up a little bit better, but also connecting you possibly into their own company or other people that they know of that may be interested in your technology. So they're very, very helpful. There's just many, many avenues along the way that you're going to learn something through this, and you'll take things away even if you don't go all the way to the end.
Hey, Jessica.
Hi, Paul.
You guys emphasized the kind of fitting into the categories, and my company would fit into a number of categories. Does it benefit you to stick out of a category? If all things are equal and you could be in impact or energy or agriculture, does it benefit you to look different?
That's a super good question. I would say annoying. I hate having to answer with this response, but it depends. I would totally recommend that you reach out to us if you're really trying to be strategic in where you'd be best positioned to really potentially win, or at least, have the best opportunity within your division. I think sometimes people do try to pick something that's maybe a little less obvious, just so that they have that uniqueness factor, or that they might stand out among peers or people who are doing similar things to them. And that sometimes works, but a lot of times has risk in that potentially the group of judges who are in that space won't know as much about or have as strong of a perspective of whether your idea is really breakthrough or meaningful. So you walk a line a little bit of it, or it depends on the uniqueness of what you're doing. Are you working on something where there are a number of existing competitors in the marketplace, but you're doing something different or better than what's out there? Or are you creating something that's never existed before, or you're serving the market in a completely new way, and you're sort of trying to build up that market or educate your potential customer on why they should be doing this, even if they've never thought of it. And that some of those nuances do matter, so that you can stand out and articulate why what you're doing should exist and that people want to pay for it. And different groups of judges may just be like, yes, I totally get it. But if you try to be so unique, they might be like, I don't really know that space. That seems cool, but it's really hard for me to have a perspective on whether that's a strong opportunity or not, or that they're thinking about their opportunity the right way. So I would highly encourage you to connect with us. Jamie, maybe you can throw our inbox email into the chat. But also, attending those application info sessions, we do go into a little bit more detail about each division in that one. Just since this is just about energy, clean tech, and water, obviously we're talking mostly about that space. But if you attend one of those other info sessions, or just reach out to us via email, we might be able to give you a little bit more detailed advice if you need it.
Okay, great, thanks. And just a quick follow-up question on that.
Yeah.
If you choose this division, then are your mentors and the advice primarily coming from the division, right? So you want to make sure.
Super good question. And really helpful point of clarification between the judge part of the process and the mentor part of the process. So if you compete within the energy, clean tech, and water division, there is a group of volunteer judges, one of whom is Emily. So thank you for being here, Emily. But a number of other folks who are coming from different sort of lanes within that industry. We have folks who are water specialists from Pentair. We have people who do different types of clean technologies at Ecolab. We have a bunch of people who are founders themselves or serial entrepreneurs in the space and know a lot of really specific things about this industry. which can be technical. So it's one of those divisions that sometimes it really matters to have people who know those things compared to just evaluating, you know, a product business plan or something that doesn't have, you know, there is a lot of like technical and specific even regulatory components within this space that might not be the case in other divisions. So those judges are unique to this division, and they will be evaluating the concepts as they progress. So you're with that same group of people the whole time once you pick a division. On the mentor side, it's again a choose your own adventure. So we have a pool of typically in the neighborhood of 120 different volunteers who say, I want to work closely with one or two companies. And we actually have a one-way matching process. So our semifinalists get to rank, like they look at all of the bios, they search through the types of expertise that our mentors have, and then they let us know, here are the top 5 people I'd like to work with and why. And then we pair everyone. So the mentors are lovely in that they don't have a say in who they work with. They just are like, I'm willing to help anyone who wants help from me. And sometimes those are people with functional expertise like attorneys and accountants. And because a lot of our teams need help with aspects of like running a business that it's just not their strength. So a lot of people choose mentors who have a piece of functional expertise or can help them with a specific business problem. And then sometimes people have experiences like Doug has, where they're choosing someone who actually knows a particular industry or can help them connect into their target market, or just even help them because they're a serial entrepreneur or a generalist and like, I need somebody to look at my pitch deck for me, or can you help me because I've never written a business plan before? Like, am I including the right things? Does this make sense to you? So that mentorship part is not division specific. You won't necessarily just get automatically paired with energy, clean tech, and water people when you are choosing your mentors. Because that's another part of like, we're really broad in all the ways, both in the stage of the companies that compete, in the industry, like the variety of industries and ideas, and in people's backgrounds. We do care deeply about making entrepreneurship more accessible to more people. So you don't have to have an MBA, you don't have to know the jargon or know the people to do well in our process. And so keeping those things as flexible as possible kind of helps us serve the most folks. So we don't assume in advance what you know or you don't know. And that can be helpful to people too. So that's a great question, Paul. Thank you for asking it.
Great, thanks. That's very helpful.
Yeah. Well, we are almost at time. That really flew. So thank you everyone for your participation. Thank you so much to Emily and particularly to Xcel Energy for your sponsorship of this division. We would not be able to give away the prize money without your support. So thank you for showing up for these early stage founders and innovators. And Doug, thank you so much for spending some time with us and sharing some of your experiences. I know it's always the most helpful to hear from people who've been through the process than it is to hear from me. So thank you for that.